We all know the story. We all know why this guy is a jerk for shooting this guy and basically being accidentally killed by this guy. The truth of the matter is Rick Murray basically ruined Degrassi and gave Degrassi fans a bit of pause in season 4 of Next Generation. Lots of people think that Rick is the most genuine villain in this whole season 4, and basically with the bullying and all that. But there are a lot of things that can go wrong. People also sympathize with Rick because he got bullied. But the fact of the matter is that there are always big players that play a major role. A movie isn't just starring one person who does everything by themselves. It's a mixture of actors, good and evil. There have been a lot of good and evil people in Degrassi history. However, season 4 would bring towards it some good characters that possibly turned evil, and some evil characters that just turned evil. But remember the old saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And basically, villainy is held in the eye of the beholder. This is a brand new series. This is the villainy of season 4. A lot of people don't realize that stories always have a backstory to it, a meaning of sorts. Now, as you probably should know, my name is Cutter Historical, aka Jeff Diamond. I'm 35. I do a lot of Degrassi videos. I've done Degrassi Rick Murray videos for 3 years and have an extensive playlist of it, which will be seen down below in the description. But the fact of the matter is, when I first thought about the Rick situation back in late 2017, early 2018, basically I looked at it that basically Rick was such a tool for basically being in dungeon school and wanting revenge for people who wronged him, who bullied him. And basically, I thought that people were not sympathetic towards Rick. Boy, howdy, I may have been wrong. But before we get to that, we basically have to talk about how we got to this point. How Rick Murray basically became a ticking time bomb. Season 3 is when we start this thing, not season 4. Season 3 is when Rick Murray is introduced as a suitor for Terry McGregor, who's been around since season 1. Terry finds out about Rick's putting roses in her locker and basically realizes that she's got someone to love. After all, many of her friends in the group, such as Hazel and Paige, have boyfriends too. She didn't want to be left out. Unfortunately, Terry would have to learn the hard way that Rick was not who he says he is. Rick Murray basically was one of the most evil people in the world. What do you think about it? Rick was put in a drama thing with Terry and Jimmy. Terry and Jimmy were the main stars. Rick was just basically a gopher, if you will. Rick was not too pleased with it, and especially with the fact that Terry was getting close to Jimmy, Rick felt jealous. Rick's jealousy basically led to him trying to ruin Terry's performance, basically to tell the world that Jimmy basically is a bad director. But of course, as we all know, Rick sabotaged Terry for his own needs. Terry realizes everything and basically tells Rick off. Rick is not too pleased, especially with the fact that Paige and Hazel are getting into Terry's head. He realizes that Terry basically is listening to those two more than him, and basically figures that Paige and Hazel are trying to ruin his relationship with Terry. He confronts Paige and Terry about it, but basically Terry wouldn't bat an eye, and Rick slams her into a wall. Rick basically realizes his mistake, and Rick and Terry are separated. However, after a few episodes, and in a trust exercise that they both felt uncommonly weird to do, basically they decide to, do it anyway, and they find out they're perfect for each other. When Paige and crew basically decide to do a road trip, with Paige being with Spinner and Hazel and Jimmy being partnered up, Terry is invited too. But Terry says, I don't have anyone to come with me. And says, and everyone says, well, you have your best friends who support you. Terry basically is drawn towards Rick. And there were signs that Rick may have been bad towards Terry, especially after ordering stuff for Terry and trying to make her lose weight and all that. Jimmy and Spinner basically agree they have to keep their eyes on Rick, especially when he did to Terry, and basically try to get Terry to realize that she's making a big mistake being with Rick. However, Terry doesn't budge. Terry basically tells everyone that everyone will be fine. Unfortunately, Rick ticks Paige off so much that Paige shoos him away. Rick runs away from everyone. Terry goes after him, even though Paige doesn't want that to happen. Paige basically is worried, especially with Terry going near Rick, and Rick basically telling Terry, you are not going back with Paige and the crew. They're poisoning you and all that. Terry doesn't know what to think, and Rick basically chooses it. But then Rick starts to get physically abusive and basically shoves Terry into a rock. Terry's head bounces off the rock, and basically she looks like she's concussed and out of it. After a few minutes of realizing, oh my God, Terry's and Rick hasn't returned, Spinner and Paige go looking for them, but finds out that Terry is out of it, and Rick has blood on his hands, literally. Rick sees Spinner and Paige and runs off. Spinner and Paige almost chase Rick until they realize they have to be with Terry, and basically they call 911. Thank goodness for the cell phone service. Basically, the school is notified about Terry's accident. Spinner basically wants Rick to pay dearly for what he did to Terry and all that. So basically, yeah, Spinner and Paige basically learned that they had to do something, but they both kind of blamed themselves for what happened because they should never have let Terry chase after Rick and all that. So basically, they feel guilt. But basically, they end up finding out that Rick has a box full of stuff. Rick's sitting in his mother's car while his mom's carrying a box of his stuff. It seems that Rick has been expelled. Although we would soon learn that no, Rick's parents pulled him out of school. Spinner wants to pull Rick out of the car and says, what are you doing? Terry's in the hospital. You should be visiting her. And basically does some weird things. Unfortunately, Rick's mom basically tears him a new one and says that, stay away from my son, both of you. Being a little dramatic, don't you think? And they drive off. Logically, though, things were out of head. So season 4 pops up, and before you know it, it's like, there's no Rick, and hey, you know what? The storyline got a positive conclusion, and Terry will be back. How little did we know that Terry did not come back in season 4. The first few episodes didn't have her in it. So basically, we were like, okay, well, I guess Terry got written off somehow, or basically left Degrassi because of Rick. And Rick wasn't even seen in the first few episodes. But lo and behold, he was back in Mercy Street. He was basically back at the school. Paige and her clique looked sickened by the fact that, the school would let Rick come back to Degrassi and all that. Rick basically wants to let Paige and her people know that he's getting better. He's gotten counseling, and he just wants to find out what happened to Terry and to maybe apologize to her. You never know. But basically, they basically shun him and all that. For context, I'm not really going into the deleted scenes that would have taken precedence in anything because I'll be talking about that in the individual storylines. But anyhow, they're not happy with Rick and all that. Rick basically desperately wants Paige to realize he's gone better and that he's a better person, but not so fast. So basically, Paige decides to use Emma as a way to get rid of Rick with a silent campaign, trying not to break the rules. Because Rick basically figures that no one's going to touch him, that no one's allowed to touch him from the school because of Radish. But Emma, after having a tea with Paige and her clique, after realizing that she has no friends after what she did to Manny and Liberty, and it was her fault, that's what basically says, yes, but you're outside of school, so we can kick you out. So basically, they make Rick's life terrible, kicking him out of the dock. And then at the school, with the Orange Ribbon campaign, they basically bully Rick a lot. Rick decides he needs to do something about it. So he decides to give money to Emma and hope that basically, by him depositing his bank account to Emma, that he cares about domestic violence and all that. Maybe he'll prove to everyone that he's changed. But before Emma gets her hands on the check, Alex basically rips it up. Emma says, basically, you don't really care about the cause, do you? And Alex basically tears her a new one, saying that, oh yeah, I've had to deal with my mother's abusive ex-boyfriends and living in women's shelters and all that. That would make Alex a sympathetic figure. But the problem is that, you know, it just makes looks like a bully. Alex relays the information to Paige, and Paige tells Emma not to have any feelings towards Rick. Not just feelings of love, but feelings of sympathy whatsoever. Emma says, don't worry about it. I'll prove it. And basically proves it by tripping Rick up. Rick goes up to talk to Emma, and the bullies think, and the boys, Jay and Spinner, basically think he's going to take down Emma for hurting him. But no. So they beat him up inside the dot. Emma decides to save Rick in a sense and says that basically this cause, the domestic violence cause, is not supposed to be meant to punish people physically. They basically turn on Emma, and Rick is happy with Emma, but Emma basically tells Rick that she did it because it was the right thing to do, and basically tells Rick gently that the people at Degrassi are not willing to be around you, and Rick says, we'll wait and see. So then there are a few episodes, basically that one episode, Rick goes to the car wash, trying to get his car washed for his mom, but they basically don't want Rick's business. And then the other one is a subplot episode that basically Rick and Toby are paired up in a trivia thing. Well, they are teammates in Rack Your Brain, aka Reach for the Top. If you're Canadian, you know exactly what it is. I don't know. I guess Quiz Bowl would be the American equivalent. But as it is, they find out that they like the geek culture. They like comic books, Dungeons and Dragons / fantasy games, and they both have an affinity to kiss Emma. So they decide to make a list of girls they want to kiss and all that. And basically, it's funny to see their lists. And then, they decide to have a kissing contest over 24 hours. Whoever gets the most kisses wins role-playing dice from the other person. And basically, the school decides a geek over a psycho, so Toby easily wins. However, Rick does not go away empty-handed, as he gets a kiss from Darcy. Gets to kiss Darcy. Strange how Darcy's first appearance was basically a kiss from Rick. But anyway, Rick, and yes, it is that Darcy. It's not a random girl. But anyway, Rick is happy, and Toby feels happy too, because Toby paid Darcy $5 to kiss Rick as a sympathy thing. Unfortunately, though, the bullies go after Toby for what he did. And then comes Time Stand Still, the episode that really changed a lot of crap. So basically, Rick decides to go to school. He gets bullied by Spinner and Jimmy. I thought it was Spinner and Jay, but no, it's Spinner and Jimmy. Jimmy was on the opposite side. Basically, they put him in a dumpster. He comes back the next day with spray cans because he has a different outfit on. So it was the next day. So he spray paints the circle X's on everyone's cars who have tormented him. Possibly as a way of basically retaliating, saying that, you're doing this to me. How would you like it with shoes on the other foot? Rick finishes his job and then bumps into Jimmy in the hallway, and then Snake asks Jimmy some questions, and Jimmy basically is now on the Rack Your Brain team, except for to replace Heather Sinclair, the famous unseen character, because she has, mono. And just to keep this in mind, that I'm not going to go through the whole like plot line and like the bit by bit things. That's basically for the individual videos. So there'll be more details in those videos. But anyway, Rick is not too happy with it and basically wants to be thrown off the team. Despite him probably going to Simpson and all that, he decides to go to Raditch. Sadly, though, Raditch basically takes Rick's words for what they are and basically said that Rick is just trying to make friends. Kicks him out. However, Rick does get Jimmy's sympathy as he basically, after Toby gets hurt by Spinner and Jay, and Rick was right that basically Toby was hurt by them. And basically he tells Jimmy that basically they're tormenting me. Now they're going to go after Toby, who's the only friend I've got. Basically, they're going to go through me with Toby. Anyhow, Jimmy switches sides. Spinner, Jay, and Alex, who basically are the only other ones who want to torment Rick, are shot. And basically Rick decides to flash the circle and X sign at the three of them. And they basically want to destroy him once and for all. They also want to destroy him because Alex said that the circle and X was by Rick. I don't know if she had evidence or she just basically was trying to make trouble for Rick. But basically, she probably just told everyone that Rick did it just to get rid of him. However, they decide to get him back at the Wacky Brain competition. Rick basically is happy and all that. Emma helped him out, and he's happy towards Emma. So basically, Rick decides to do the tiebreaker for Emma and says, "This is for you." Hope you heard that. But anyhow. And then he gets told to do the tiebreaker mostly because Spinner and Jay are telling him this and said that we're cool. And out of earshot, they basically said that the prank will go on. So it's Paint and Feathers, and Alex will be using it. However, Spinner has a conscious mind. But Rick saves the day for the trivia competition. They've won the title on TV. Sadly, though, he gets Paint and Feathered. Everyone laughs at him, and he's not happy. Emma tries to calm him down, and basically Rick listens to her and basically says that, thanks a lot, Emma, and all this. That was for you. And he tries to kiss Emma. Emma's like, "Rick, what are you doing? I thought you liked me. I only pitied you. Get a clue." And he looks forlorn. He calls out to his parents, despite the fact that his parents both are not going to be around. And then he finds his dad's handgun and basically wants to take matters in his own hands. He goes to the school with his Paint and Feathers on. I don't know why he didn't just change. But anyway, he does that. Toby tries to calm him down, but Rick says, "This is one of the times I want to be at school." So basically, Rick decides to go after Paige because he knows that Paige has been spreading anti-Rick rhetoric to everybody. However, Paige feels sympathetic to Rick, being that the Paint and Feathers was childish and everything had gone too far. She now realizes that the bullying was gone too far. And he apologizes for hurting Terry, and Paige nods. And then Rick decides, okay, you know what? Maybe it was stupid for me to come in. So he puts the gun in his locker and decides to clean up in the bathroom. However, Spinner and Jay, decide to pin things on Jimmy. Mostly because of Spinner bragging about it and realizing, oh shoot, I should not have done that. And also maybe because of a way to get back at Jimmy for banning them. So basically Rick hears it and, he listened to Spinner and Jay about doing the tiebreaker. Everything was cool when it wasn't. So basically, his mind is that Jimmy was backstabbing him. Basically, he needed someone on the inside. And basically, he shoots Jimmy. Now, it's poignant to remember, that Rick did not look at Jimmy when he shot him. He turned his head and he shot the gun. If he really wanted to get at Jimmy, he would have went point blank on him. But it basically gets Jimmy in the spine, and thankfully Jimmy is alive, in a sense. However, Emma, Sean, and Toby turn towards him, and he basically wants to destroy Emma for spreading his advances. Sean tries to calm the situation down, but Rick doesn't listen to him. Rick wants to go after Emma. And basically, Sean fights him. And all that. So basically, there's a lot of trouble. And of course, there's a gunshot going off. We find out that Sean has a bandage on, and maybe he got shot and all that. But we soon learned that Rick was the victim and he died. How? I have no clue. There's a lot of things going on at the school. They don't know what to do and all that. Hazel feels the worst for Jimmy because she doesn't see Jimmy at his desk. And of course, Miss Sauve tells Hazel that fact too. Fortunately, though, you know, well, Toby doesn't know how to feel about his best friend and all that. Why he would snap. And Snake and Raj go tete-a-tete over the fact that Raj may have mishandled the situation with Rick in the first place, leaving him high and dry and all that. So basically, the students reflect and all that. Spitter wants to confess his guilt. After learning that Jimmy got shot, he puts two and two together and realizes that Rick may have had a gun and probably would have shot them if it wasn't for them pinning things on Jimmy. Jay basically says that no one needs to know this, and basically Jimmy was your best friend, either outcome. So basically, yeah, they try to talk about things. Simpson realizes that he may have screwed up too and said we should have figured things out. Why did we wait till this shooting happened to see the warning signs? This is not fair. So basically, people are blaming themselves or blaming other people. And then in Back in Black, the school opens up on Monday, but only because of grief counseling. Sean relishes being a hero and all that. Ellie's not so sure if he's handling it quite well. There's a discussion on whether Rick should be, sympathized about and all that. Toby doesn't know how to feel either. JT and Danny basically put things on Toby's mind. Thankfully, though, Manny straightens the boys out, and basically JT apologizes to Toby about his behavior at Rick's visitation. So basically, yeah, that. Toby still was puzzled about things. Sean learns that his parents made a thing about him on TV, and basically he wants to rip him a new one because they sent him to Toronto. But it was in good intentions. After what he did to a boy named Tyler, he would have been in jail, but they decided to send him to his brother in Toronto and try to get him out of the way. Although, Toronto's way worse for violence than Wasaga. But regardless, he meets up with Tyler, and basically Ellie wants to know what's wrong with Sean. Sean decides to get a jet ski, and then for some reason he's in the water. Thankfully, Tyler saves his butt, and Sean realizes his life sucks and all that. He apologizes to Emma over what happened the previous season, and Emma shrugs says ancient history. Sean decides to go home and talk to his parents and basically cry over the fact that he may have shot and killed Rick. He may have been responsible for it. And then he stays at Wasaga to deal with his trauma and all that. Emma understands. Ellie's not so sure about that. So basically, yeah, Sean's written off. And then, of course, there are a few episodes with Jimmy being, rehabbed and all that. But then Voices Carrie, the subplot, we like the Craig and Ashley plot, but the B plot was huge because it told about how Raj was handling the situation, which was not that well. He wanted to cancel Dracula for a musical. I guess try to put away that Degrassi is a studied place, and the shooting was just incidental and all that. Of course, as I said, I'll be dealing with that more so in the individual videos and all that. But basically, JT and Liberty write a song insulting Raj. Raj basically takes it as face value and puts him in detention, and then a couple days later, he's turfed. The school board decides that he needs to be getting rid of, but he's reassigned, not fired. Raj does have, they do make him do a speech and all that. He doesn't admit his role in the Rick Murray situation, but he basically says that, I'll miss Degrassi, blah, blah, blah. They at least send him off in the right way. Of course, the actor wanted to leave the show because, he was in Los Angeles and flying him to Toronto just for a few lines and all that and flying him back. Cost effectiveness. But anyway, yeah. So, bad luck. But anyway, yeah, there were a lot of fear and all that. Basically, in Secret, the two-parter, we find out that Emma has not bounced back from having a gun pointed at her head, even though she usually bounces back in the first few seasons. So basically, she's withdrawn and all that. She finds an unlikely ally in Jay, and basically, using sexual favors, she finds she has more control in her life and all that. However, Manny decides to try to teach Emma that she's doing the wrong thing. Emma doesn't understand it at first, but then when there was a gonorrhea attack and that Alex and Amy are gone from the production of Dracula, which Hatzelackle saves because she's now the new principal, Emma realizes that her symptoms could be huge. Basically, Emma doesn't know what to do. Manny tells Emma that basically you can't kiss Dracula, even though Emma says, but it's part of the job. But unfortunately, what Manny says, basically, this is not the Emma I know. The Emma we all know would basically not do this. So basically, Emma tries to kiss him, but the guy refuses to kiss, and basically she's burned by the school and all that. But she does tell Snake and Spike that she hasn't been handling the shooting well. She may be guilty about what happened to Rick, and basically a lot of things. But Snake calms Emma down and says, you don't have to be perfect for anybody. So then Jimmy comes back to the school in the next episode in a wheelchair. Basically, the school's now wheelchair accessible. Spinner decides to help Jimmy out, although he still has the rack of guilt over what happened to Jimmy. All that. So basically, Spinner does a good job trying to make Jimmy feel better about himself. Unfortunately, though, Spinner feels that Jimmy is being down on himself. Jimmy says that I may have deserved it for riding Rick as much as, Spinner, Jay, and Alex did. Basically, my life is over. It's like pieces of me. Spinner tries to calm Jimmy down and says that, you're you for a reason. But Jimmy doesn't like himself, and then Spinner decides to take the time to tell Jimmy the truth about what happened in the bathroom. Unfortunately, though, he gets shunned by the school. I guess rightfully so, in a sense. But basically, he wants to make things right and all that. Jay doesn't help matters by saying, haha, I knew you were going to blab. Jimmy deserved to know. And basically, Jay makes fun of him for being an outcast. Spinner tries to make things better with Jimmy, but fails. Jimmy then basically snaps at Spinner, telling him why he's not the best friend and all that. Doesn't mention a lot of things prior to season 4, but basically the Rick situation, leaving me high and dry, telling Rick I did it when it was you guys? That's inexcusable. I don't care what happens to you. Drive off a bridge. Spinner, with no other options, decides to tell Hatzelackle the whole truth about himself. He implicates Jay, but not Alex. And basically, he's expelled alongside Jay, zero tolerance, and all that stuff. The aftermath, Spinner comes back in season 5. He goes through a redemption song. He knows he's not going to get a lot of people happy with him, but he tries to make things right, and at least he has a conscience. Jay, on the other hand, I never liked him as a person. Alex survives not having to be caught about the Rick Murray situation, and she keeps it a secret from herself, from everybody. People come and go. Emma got hugely affected because it changed her personality. I think the writers were trying to change her because there may have been some early internet message board hate for Emma being so pompous and pious and all that shit. But basically, yeah. So Emma changes her tone. She tries to get with a boy, I think mostly out of guilt because, if she probably feels that if she had somebody with her as a boyfriend, then Rick probably would not have gone after her. But you never know. So anyway, that's all I've got this in the first installment of this series. So just a reminder, the next video in the series will be basically people who could be considered villainous, but you can't really call them a villain. I'll talk about 4 people, or 4 or 5 people, I think. Don't know the number. And then I'll talk about in individual videos, 8 individuals who basically you might call villainous. And I'll tell you if they're really villains or basically the way of thinking is wrong. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.